This is a regular meeting of the Board of Managers of the Marlin Independent School District being held January 19th, 2020, beginning at 4 p.m. in the Marlin Middle School Library, 678 Success Drive, Marlin, Texas. A recording of the meeting will be available for listening on the district website. Roll call. Board Manager Terry.
Present.
Board Manager Vickers.
Here.
Non-board Manager Johnson. All three board members are present. We do have a quorum. Please stand for the pledge and remain standing for a moment of silence. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Public comments? Any public? No, none posted. All right, item 6, recognition. A, January 2020 Employee of the Month. B, January 2020 Lone Star Government Student of the Month. And C, Lone Star January 2020 Lone Star Government Employee of the Month.
Good afternoon, Board President, Board Manager, Dr. Henson. Today, I would like to introduce to you the January Lone Star Governance Employee of the Month. She has been a dedicated employee of Marlin Independent School District for 25 years of service. She currently serves as our King Coordinator. She has a bachelor and her MBA from American Intercontinental University. She's also a graduate of Marlin, class of 1985. She's a war veteran from the Army, 7 children, married for 20 years, 27 grandchildren, 4 girls, 23 boys. She enjoys being with her family. She was dedicated to her church for many years, and she loves to travel. I would like to introduce you Ms. Kathy Creel. Thank you. Next, I would like to introduce to you our Lone Star Student of the Month. She's a 5th grader at Marlin Elementary. Her parents are Christine and Justin Watson. She has 1 sister and 3 dogs. Her hobbies include running track, playing with her dogs, baking desserts, and spending time with her cousin. Justine is an amazing student whose favorite subject is science. She was going to Texas State Technical College, where she will study culinary arts and become an award-winning baker. Our Lone Star student for January is Justine Watson. And our Lone Star Teacher of the Month is Leslie Collier from Meridian, Texas. Did I say that right?
I'll be accepting.
Okay, from Meridian, Texas. And she was blessed to have one amazing daughter she brings with her to Marlin. This is her 7th year at Marlin Elementary and is grateful to have touched so many lives. She's a graduate of Houston State University, and she is currently pursuing her doctorate degree in educational leadership from Concordia. She believes in the scholars here in Marlin ISD, and she is actively involved in church and also does other activities on Sundays with her church. Everyone has to understand that students can learn just as all students can, given the opportunity. It takes one teacher to ignite the spark. So Dorothy and Leslie Collier, our Lone Star teacher for January. Thank you. Also, the month of January is the Board Appreciation Month. Sit back for a minute and enjoy being showered with gifts. We're going to start with the elementary and work our way up, but we all have something very special to show our appreciation for our board members and all of our work that you do. So we're going to start with Marlin Elementary School to do their presentation.
Our students, Miss Philip and Miss Terry. Our absolute favorites, and so we always do nothing but cake. We have Marlin swag, so we have a Marlin Elementary t-shirt. We have our lovely Marlin Elementary coffee cup. Our students have written you some thank you notes that have been heavily edited and looked at before we gave it to you. And then a little birdie told us that you love Sonic, and so in our thank you card that's signed by all of our staff, we do have some Sonic treats in there for you as well. And then a picture of our beautiful sheriffs, just saying thank you for all that you do.
That just looks like me.
Give you a planner and agenda.
Oh, all right, all right.
And this one has a Marlin logo.
Thank you. Thank you very much. We taking a picture?
Yes.
That is beautiful.
Thank you.
And next, we'll present a presentation from Marlin Middle School.
Okay, so we have the esteemed pleasure of having Board President Johnson for our board member. And so we have showered you with lots of gifts. We called your daughters to find out what your favorite was. And we found out that Miss Miller, we got you a nice Dallas Cowboy blanket. There you go. So you got your comforter. We have you a $65 gift card. This is a card that is signed by all of the scholars here at Marlin Middle School.
Thank you.
And then we have a ticket for you for your Letterman jacket when it comes in 6 weeks. That's all from Coach Johnson. And then we have a backpack full of like all types of things that you're not supposed to have Snickers, so please don't eat a lot of them. And so you have some Big Red in there, a lot of Dallas Cowboy things, so everything that you like. It's your special time. So thank you for all that you do.
I appreciate you.
Handmade by Miss Miller. Okay, so we're going over here. Okay. Okay, sure. Where you going? He said, that's nice. Thank you again, President Johnson, for all that you do. Oh, okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We need to put it in the back. Can't top that, but from Executive Cabinet, we got you a monogram planner and a.
Wow, nice.
And then next we'll have a presentation from Marlin High School.
All right.
We have the honor of showering you. Oh, here's our consultant. This is our consultant. So just let you know, your money goes, is your well spent.
All right.
Okay. So what we like to do is, we did a few things of your favorite things. And so we just want to tell you kind of the meaning.
All right.
So first of all, on behalf of Marlin High School staff and scholars, we'd like to take this opportunity to thank you for all you do, all you have done, are doing, and will do for the scholars of Marlin ISD. We'd like to present you with this custom tin decorated in love by our own art student and cheerleader and athlete, McKenna Johnson. The tub is filled with some of your favorite things, and TCP and the famous chicken. The tub is filled with some of your favorite things, but once it is empty, please refill it again and again. We know sometimes you may get emptied by the tireless hours of service you freely give to all of our schools with no expectation of pay or recognition. Please look at this tub as a reminder of the love that went into it and all those who appreciate and love you. The farmer's glove is used for a labor of love. Thank you for laboring every day for our scholars.
Oh, wow. I can use those.
The rooster gets you up to rise and shine for the day to come. Thank you for always rising and shining and being a light for our scholars so they have shining hope for their futures. We know you love skeet shooting. For those who don't know what skeet shooting is, it's an American game that uses clay targets, and we have another big old box over there.
Oh, wow.
A hit on a
I was gonna say
target.
this will last about 10 minutes.
There you go, there's another 20. A hit on a target is referred to as a kill. We want to make you proud and hit all of our targets in the days and the months ahead, so you'll be able to see all the great progress we've made. Next, you'll find a deck of cards for playing the game of bridge you love. Thank you for bridging the gap between what we didn't have to what we have now to continue to connect our scholars to build on their bridges to cross over to higher achievement. We are forever grateful. My help. Grateful. There we go. Good. I got grateful. Yeah. We are forever grateful for your commitment to excellence. There we go. We are forever grateful for your commitment to excellence because we are Marlin Bulldogs. Thank you for all that you do.
The love goes both ways, you guys. It really does. From all of us.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
You are more than welcome. Okay.
You gotta take your picture.
One more, 1, 2, 3.
Thank you.
I'm going to look at Jerry didn't have me, or he'd say she doesn't need me.
And I want to make sure that we honor our teachers due to a technical difficulty that Claudia is presented appropriately. So again, Claudia originally from Meridian, Texas, I hope I said it correctly, has been servicing our students for quite a few years, is a dedicated mother and church boy. So again, our Lone Star student, and also our teacher of the month, Ms. Claudia.
I'll get them over here. Thank you. Thank you.
All right. Appreciate all the gifts and everything from everyone. We really do appreciate it. Next item. Superintendent report.
Board President Johnson, members of the board, today we do have our monthly superintendent report, starting with Mr. Adam Lejeune and the E-rate bid evaluation matrix.
President Johnson, members of the board, thank you very much. Just another brief reminder for you. E-rate is a federal program that provides discounts for certain technology services for schools and libraries. We are now at the section 4 side of E-rate. We have received our bids and we are preparing to complete the evaluation. So today I wanted to briefly show you our evaluation tool that we use to pick a awarded contractor, and then we'll ask for contracts after that. In your packet, I have an actual version of our blank bid matrix, but I just wanted to walk you through the categories that we look at. Again, here's where we are in the process. In the middle of January, we do plan on having contracts by February 15th board meeting for you all to sign. So we have 7 evaluation categories. One is a price. Price always has to be the highest weighted category according to the rules of the program. Then we have that all of the requirements of the RFP are met. Then we have the quality of the vendor service or product that usually goes with either a recommendation based on calling people who applied, or if there are reviews online of the services or products that they're offering, we consider those. Then we have a past relationship with the vendor. If we had a really good experience with someone, then we like to give them a few extra points for that. We have discounted billing, which allows us to consider not only the total cost, but also the total cost versus MSRP. And then we have the ability of the vendor to comply with federal program rules. These last 3 sections are not extremely highly rated. Again, price must be the highest rated, but sometimes that can make a difference. So if we have someone who is the cheapest, but has been, let's say, not the most productive relationship in the past, and sometimes those 5 points will sway the decision one way or the other. So once the winning bidder is selected, following evaluation of the bids, they are notified. Then we ask for a contract to be prepared. We look at the contract, and it will be presented on February 15th, excuse me. The board does have the option to not approve the contract, which will we'll have to go back to the next highest evaluated winner at that point. We're not allowed to go back out for contracts if the board does not approve the contracts or the proposed vendors that we have. Following the selection and signing of the contracts, then we file our 471, which is the next step, which is actually asking for our discount. And we are aiming for February 22nd to 26th, provided the board chooses to approve contracts that are offered on February 15th. The final filing date hasn't been announced by USAC as of yesterday when I checked. So it'll likely be late April due to COVID. It may be pushed back into May, but we are allowed to start receiving and installing our products after the end of our fiscal year, which is June 30th. Sorry, excuse me. Are there any questions about those slides?
Johnson, members of the board, we want to give an update on our chance for success of this time, the attendance for class credit. In the physical education code, students have to attend class a minimum of 90% of the time in which the days are off. For students who fall within the 75-90% threshold, that time has to be made up per local policy. For students who receive less than 75%, they have to fill out a waiver or request on top of making up that additional time. So this is an overview of the actual regulations per the state education code. When looking at our actual district local policy, we do have here in place for Marlin. The superintendent, I have to work with the campus principal in developing what we call a principal's plan to recover that time per the state law. A committee has convened to determine and look at which students and what are the reasons for the number of absences that are highly excessive. You have to understand that in our fall semester, we have 81 days. So to reach over that 10% threshold, that's 8.1. So that 9th absence will reach with that 90% over to 20 absences. And if you're 21 plus, you have to submit a written petition. The committee was majority teachers, so we have 4 teachers, 1 central office, as well as 2 principals. The plan is taking place this month during January for 6 days on illuminated after school from January 12th through the 27th. the campuses to make sure that they're doing assignments or works related to reading, mathematics, science, and or social studies. Are there any questions?
How many days do they go? Well,
They're having to make.
Tuesday and Wednesday.
Yes, sir. So it's
Okay.
6 days to make up the absences for the bulk. We understand that this information has not been communicated to students in the past really on, you have to come to school. And so we are heavily in compliance that we have to follow our actual local policy and coming up with a plan to give a method for regaining the credit that you have lost due to going below that 10% threshold of absence.
You have any, go ahead.
Is this unexcused absence or any absence?
So any absence besides COVID. So even if they were sick with the note, you still have to be there. COVID was the only absence that, of course, is excused by the
Even with a doctor's note?
even the doctor's note.
Do you have any idea how many kids are affected by this?
At the high
At this
school,
point?
the enrollment was 212. We're talking 60 kids, so that's still a pretty large percent.
Mhm.
At the elementary school, Mrs. Ellis, you know approximately the number of students who have to attend the attendance.
143.
143 out of approximately 400 at the middle school. 74 out of 189. We know attendance has been a major issue in Marlin, and sometimes it's been from a lack of like, hey, I can make it up. And I think by doing this, it's been out and like, yes, you just can't stay home and get all these notes. You have to make up that time. And so the second go around of this for the spring semester will be in the summertime.
You saying if they don't do during the year, they're doing the summer?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
I'm just going to ask because it looks like to me a lot of money. I mean, a fair amount of money because you're paying teachers to stay and conduct those classes. Am I correct?
Right.
With that many kids?
Well, so they're actually in our large spaces. So I know for a fact at the high school, we're allowing 3 employees to stay. So
Okay.
let's just say per campus, even if it's $100 per campus active duty pay, that's only $1,800, which we can fund either through local or federal dollars.
And I just wondered if there might be some grant program that or some
Federal funds.
state money, whatever
Yes, sir.
that comes back and reimburses you for that.
Not the reimbursement.
No.
No, sir. This is pretty much get your kids to come to school on time for the hundreds in the first place.
Okay.
And I kind of Googled about attendance. We found out today from the commissioner that more than likely hold harmless. What I mentioned about the possible losing 290K, it'll extend at least for the 4 to 6 weeks. So every time we get a 6 weeks of hold harmless for attendance, it's going to help out financially, but there is no reimbursement for this.
Okay.
Next, we have Dr. Stacy Parker with the Lone Star Governance Report 1.1.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Board President Johnson, members of the
Good
board,
afternoon.
Dr. Henson. I'm going to talk to you about our Lone Star Governance Goal for progress measure 1.1. So with this progress measure, it states that the percentage of our pre-kindergarten through second grade students reading at or above grade level will increase by at least 1% per quarter as measured by a computer-based reading assessment. Our 2020-2021 target percentage is 54% of our students reading on or above grade level. For Marlin ISD, for kindergarten through second grade, we did use the in-class Amplify Reading Inventory Assessment, and for pre-kindergarten, we continue to use our CLI Engage Circle Assessment. So for our pre-kindergarten students, the literacy results for the first quarter, as you can see, circled measures rapid vocabulary, naming the letters, phonological awareness. Our overall measure shows that 49% of our pre-kindergarten students are on track, meaning they are at or above grade level. For kindergarten through second grade, again, it's measured by the in-class Amplify Reading Assessment. You'll see for kindergarten, 50% of our kindergartners are at or above grade level. So we have 6 students, which are 11% at benchmark. And then, of course, we have 39%, 22 of the kindergarten above benchmark. For first grade, we have 15 students at benchmark for the 29%, and then 6 students above benchmark for 12%, which is a total of 41% of our grade 1 students at or above grade level. For second grade, we show 44% overall of our grade 2 students at or above grade level, with 18 of those students being at grade level for 32%, and 7 of those students being above benchmark at 12%. As you can see, overall, just measuring overall for our 54% target, you'll see those numbers showing that we are close but not yet at the mark where we would want to be for this school year. Again, just recapping, 49% pre-kindergarten, 50% kindergarten, 42% first grade, and 44% grade 2. Wanted to advise the board that we will begin our second quarter testing February of 2021, and so we will come back to report those results to show hopefully increase by our 1% measure. Any questions?
I'm curious, do you have data for where those kids were last year?
No, because this year is the first year that they were given the reading inventory, so we don't have historical data to measure.
Okay.
So we're going to utilize our second quarter.
Okay. And there are 3 reporting periods or 4 total?
For this year, it will be 3. Beginning of the year, middle of the year.
Okay, 3. Okay. Okay.
And then that fourth quarter will be any summer testing.
Summer
We
testing.
should do the summer testing.
Okay. So tell me, in general, is this relatively good news, or what do you think?
It's relatively good news that we're close to our initial target. We definitely are striving for gains greater than the 1%, so that we can exceed our target. We definitely want more students meeting, but I was definitely pleased that we're closer to the target with our primary grades, and then as we continue our deep interventions, we should see those.
So would it be your guess that numbers are better this year than last year?
Since I wasn't here yet last year,
I'm putting you on the spot. I'm sorry.
But I, will say that I would venture to say that we have some.
We've seen some, she's being modest, we've seen improvement because our data, we definitely try to triangulate it. And keep in mind, a couple months ago, we were showing 8% scores, 13% scores. So even though it may have been a different assessment, we were very low. So through our interventions and just having a direct focus in on literacy, when they took this assessment, even though it's the first time for this assessment, now we're seeing that we're already close to the goal within maybe 9 to 10 weeks of just that pure direct focus instruction. So.
Okay, thank you. I was just trying to put some perspective to it.
Yes, sir. But I'll be honest, but 54% to me is still bad because that means 46% of our kids can't read. So the goal is the goal. However, we have to understand that we're trying to definitely get into our high 80s, 90s, if not 100%.
Okay.
So next, we will have the financial audit review. Next, we'll have the financial audit review by Mr. Lawrence Gallo as Chief Academic Officer.
As is queuing up our auditors, they're going to do a full presentation. You should have a red binder in front of you that has the final audit and also has a presentation that they're going to go through for you. This is very short, very 6 slides that they have. Can you hear us?
Hello?
Yes, sir.
So start my presentation. I'm sorry, I cannot hear you because you are far away.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, it's perfect.
Yes, you can go ahead and start. We're about to start your presentation.
Okay, awesome. Give me 1 second. Let me share my screen. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Amar Saka, and I'm Senior Auditor with Beasley Mitchell and Company, the firm which did like the audit for Marlin ISD. I'm doing my presentation today about the audited financial statements, and I'm giving you the opinion we issued on the financial statements for the financial statements as of June 30th, 2020. Also, I'm presenting some financial highlights from your financial statements. So we did our audit based on the engagement letter signed by August 11, 2020 with Marlin ISD. And here we go. We have like our audit summary here. So the audit we do normally based on the government standard and GAAP. And we pick up samples as an auditors to test it. After we test the samples, we build our conclusion or opinion based on the samples. So we issue our opinion about financial statements if it present fairly or not, but we don't issue our opinion on the internal control of Marlin ISD. But during our audit, if we got like any issues or finding, we reported in our report. And so during our audit, we did not get any significant change like to risk area of like our audit plan and risk assessment, so there's no change. Just we have outstanding matter here, like the payment agreement to keep the school open has received by the district. However, it's still pending TEA approval. So that's why we had to mention this in our audit report. We did also a single audit for Marlin ISD because they spend over $750,000 from federal money. And we did it for Title I and for special education, IDB. And the report result ended up to be, our audit opinion was unmodified opinion, which means a clean opinion. And the same for single audit was unmodified opinion. And we did not identify during our audit any findings. So about going concern, just like the school has a not accredited revoked status. So an appointment agreement, as I mentioned, just received, but still pending TEA approval. During our audit, we did not identify any illegal act or fraud or non-compliance with the laws or non-GAAP stuff, subsequent events, or any other findings, and any financial presentation or disclosure omission or any related parties. So none was identified during our audit. The same like significant difficulties encountered, none like actually, I would like to say thank you to Lawrence here and Sarah for helping us and provide all like information required to complete the audit. And we didn't have any disagreement with the management, no significant finding or issues. And management consultation and with the other accountants, none. And just like we communicate with the management and board about like the engagement letter and management representation letter. Here I am presenting some financial highlights from the financial statements. On this slide, we can see the net position of Marlin ISD, and this is comparative financial chart for 2019 and 2020. Marlin ISD by June 30th for 19 and for 2020, they had like around 6 million on their net position. And we can see there's a little bit of increase from 2019 till 2020. And that's around 28,000. And that's what we call like change in net position. And it was positive for 2020. In the second slide here, I'm presenting charts from the financial position for Marlin ISD. On the left chart, we can see the assets. So we have, and also comparative between 2020 and 2019. We can see the current assets was like around 8 million for both year. Capital assets was around 10 million for both year. And deferred outflow was around 5 million for 2020 and 4 million for 2019. And deferred outflow, and this one is coming from pension, recognizing pension according to GASB 68, and recognizing OBEP, which is healthcare for TRS. On the right side of the chart, we can see the liability section of financial position, also comparative between 2019 and 2020. We can see long-term liabilities like around 11 million. And the reason for this liability is coming actually from net pension liability and OBIB liabilities. And also is required to be presented on the district financial statements. And we can see also deferred inflow, also like around $4 million for both year, and also coming from GASB 68 and GASB 75. And the rest of other liabilities around like $1.5 million, like accounts payable, accrued expenses, or accrued salaries. Next slide here, we are presenting the revenue for 2020 and 2019. And we can tell from this pie chart here, the source of revenue came to Marlin ISD. And we can see the around 50%, 51 to 54% between 2019 and 2020 came from grants and contribution, 12% of the revenue coming from charges for services, 15% coming from operating grants, and property taxes, it's around 20%. And that's ended up like total to be like 15 million for both year, around 15 million received. For expenditures, we can see for 2020 and 2019, Marlin spent around 15,700,000, and that's a breakdown how the expenses for these 2 years. And the major expenditures went to instruction, around 8 million, and like 56% of the expenditures. And the rest of like the around 8% also went to maintenance operation. And that's what I have here. Thank you so much for having us. If you have any question, please never hesitate to contact us. Here are my contact details for the engagement partner, Brad Beasley, and myself, Amr.
Amir, we have a question from one of our board members.
Yes, sir.
I actually have a couple questions. You want to go back to that statement of assets and liabilities, if we could? You mentioned something about the high number over there on the liabilities side being attributed to COVID and something else. And I didn't catch that when you said that, but I was wondering if you could explain that a little bit, please.
About the long-term liabilities, right, sir?
Yes, sir.
Oh, it's not COVID. No, I'm sorry. Like it's about healthcare for TRS. It's OBIB, pension and pension liabilities. And we can look this on the financial statements because I have it shared here. So I can show you exactly what this one. It's net pension liability here, sir. 5 million, 5.5 million, and net OBIB liabilities. Is that answering your question?
I just would like to know if that's in line with other districts our size.
Yes, sir, it is. It's required by GASB 68 and GASB 75, and it's required to book this liabilities on your financial statements just to present the liability for the employees. And it just like to present the school is still liable for their net pension and net OBIB. If just like the plan you are participate in, it got failed and don't pay this the portion they have to. So we are required to book this by standard. Yes, sir.
And near the beginning of your presentation, you were pointing out the difference in 2019, 2020 as our somewhere around $6 million was our, I'm going to call it a fund balance, but you didn't call it that. Is that the same thing?
We call it like net position. It's kind of the same, sir, here. And I'm opening the slide here again, and you can see it's a net investment in capital assets and restricted for federal and state program, restricted for debt, and we can see also restricted for capital project and a restricted fund, which is coming from fund balance here. But this is financial statements, is government-wide financial statements, so it's including the fixed assets also here.
So when we are judged or whatever by the state for the size of our fund balance, is that going to be the number we're approximately looking at, or?
You can when they look at the budget stuff, they look at in the fund balance as a cash fund balance. They don't normally look at the fund balance on the government wide. They look on the fund balance at how much cash you have on your fund for each fund of them.
All right. And years ago, I mean, my service is from many years ago, but we used to turn to the back of the page of an audit and look for findings. And I believe I understood you to say that you you all had no opinions on things, or this audit did not express an opinion on anything like internal controls. And that was used to be, well, I say used to be, one of our big bugaboos was that we had some internal control issues. And I just wondered if, is that something that's changed from the standpoint of what an audit covers, or?
No, sir, we still issue a report, and you can see this in the financial statements. We still give you an opinion, like a report on the internal control stuff. And let me share this with you here. This is a report on internal control and on compliance. But we don't issue opinion as an auditor, like, because on financial statements, we issue opinion saying the financial statements present fairly. For internal control, we don't say the internal control which the school has prevent and protect the whole school from any fraud or error happening. As an auditors, we are required to do the audit, and if we figure out like any issues, like significant deficiencies or material weaknesses on the internal control, then we have to report it on the finding. And this report mentioned like what our responsibility is as an auditors on this side. But if you can see here, we don't give an opinion on the internal control, because it's a management responsibility to keep good effectiveness, internal control to protect the school from any fraud or error happening. Because as an auditor, we just do based on our samples. So if our samples did not discover something that sits there, we don't guarantee something like we did not test it. So what we do, we just test our samples and we issue a finding on it. If we, during our samples or somebody like told us there's something weaknesses there, we look at it in details and then we issue finding about it. Is that answering your question, sir?
Yes, sir, I think so. But I just want to make sure that if you did see something, that there would be some way that it would get reported. Am I correct about that or wrong?
No, sir, the same way, like the same way, like how we used to have it like before, the same way, like it's no change on this part.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any more question or we're good?
Thank you.
I'm here, thank you. We're good.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
And next, we will have a presentation by our elementary principal. Appreciate it.
Good evening. Thank you so much for having me. I wanted to talk about,
It's the next slide.
the next thing.
And I kind of go into a background. We know that the elementary school is our actual focus. And so we have to be very targeted in how we address the data. We have to make sure that we just don't look at the data and talk about it, but we put plans in place that are going to impact learning the next day. It's all about having an immediate impact, Mrs. Edwards. However much the Lord gives you.
Okay. All right. And so after taking our CBA test, we looked at the data and made a concerted plan on what are we going to do in a concentrated manner to move our students the quickest. And so as an instructional team, we got together and looked at many factors for our data. One of the things that we noticed was that we were being very, just in full transparency, we were being reactionary to the data. We were doing everything that we were told to do, but then when we would see outcomes that did not meet our standard, we would then react. And what I mean by react is my instructional team, we would collapse classes, we would bring students into our learning centers, we would provide instruction with our teachers in a very concentrated manner. And when we would do that, we would see immediate gains in the data. And so this just outlines some of the items that, for instance, on financial literacy, the first time it was tested was at 18%, but then once we put kind of an all hands on deck approach to it, you saw gains going up to 76%. And so once we got our CBA data and we saw that just in these areas where we responded in that way, we had gains, we got back to the table and said, okay, we can't just have pockets of gains. What are we going to do that's sustainable? Because we obviously can't teach every single day, but what are we going to do that's sustainable to grow our teachers at the same time, grow our students and protect them in the manner that we need to? Because our CBA data was not what we wanted it to be. And so the plan here was that what we noticed was that our teachers needed very concentrated supports. We have some capacity issues with our teachers right now as far as instructionally, knowing their content and knowing good pedagogy, knowing how to stand up flat-footed and just deliver instruction to our students. And so that was a concern. Us going in and teaching the classes, of course, that'll get our kids to grow, but our teachers have to be able to grow at the same time. And so what we are implementing at this point are very considered growth plans. They're constructed by me. And so a growth plan is just where we document exactly the supports that we are putting in place for every single teacher. So even if once you have a growth plan right now, it says that Ms. Edwards will be in your class 2 days out of 5 days a week, at least, to model and co-teach with you. Your lesson plans are due at such and such time. You will get feedback from me. I will come in and then work with you, or our instructional coaches or our interventionists will work with you. These are the gains that we are expected to see in this amount of time. So our growth plans span anywhere from 2 weeks to 3 weeks, and they're based off of our T-tests, so our teacher evaluations, and then our student performance. And so one of the things is we have teachers on growth plans. We also have what we're calling a push-in from admin and teacher's assistant. And so instead of us taking kids from them and working in our learning center, it's side by side. Every single one of our teachers, 3 through 5, have an instructional leader that is paired with them, whether it be myself, our assistant principal, or one of our instructional coaches or our interventionists. We're paired with them. And so what that looks like is from the planning process to the delivering of instruction, to the assessment of our students, to discussing what we need to do next. They have kind of a thought partner with them all the way through. Our teachers are not going to fail because we're side by side with them. Our students are not going to fail because we're side by side with them. And so, so we do have 2 teachers on growth plans right now, and we are co-teaching. We're doing a co-teach model with them. And so how did we involve our teachers in this? Because it can be a little scary when data comes out and then all of a sudden your principal shows up in the class, you can't have people shutting down. And so it was really important to us that our teachers understood the vision behind why we're with you. We're not going to let you fail. So we did, our instructional leadership team did meet. We sat down and we identified with our teachers what we call our BOM students. So those students that sometimes they score, sometimes they don't score. And so they could just, depending on the day, they're right there on the cusp of being where we need them to be, but some concepts do get them, some concepts they don't get as much as they could get other concepts. And so our BOM students were identified together with our teachers, and together in our PLCs, or our professional learning communities we meet twice a week, we brainstormed qualitative reasons for low performance. And what I meant by qualitative reasons is, to give an example of reading data, you might have 2 students that both scored, let's say at the 50th percentile, but 50th percentile, but 2 50th percentiles don't have to be equal. This 50th percentile student may be able to read fluently, so if I listen to them as I'm walking around, I can hear them calling words and it sounds like they understand. But if I actually talk to them, they have comprehension issues. Whereas I have another 50th percentile where I got 50, I'm a great guesser, I'm struggling to read. I'm having phonemic issues. They can't get the same amount, they can't get the same support. If I give one the same support as the other, I'm gonna see one grow and the other one not grow. And so we sat down and line by line, student by student, came up with what are some qualitative reasons that our students are not moving at the rate that we expect them to, and we outlined those. We have a student data tracker. I don't know, okay, you can't see it in here. So we have a student data tracker, and what we do with that is just every student has their own line, and we're seeing, are they moving? After we are putting in these supports, are they actually effective? And so we outline for every student, what was that student low in, What are we gonna do to support them? When are we gonna reassess them? And then we sit down and we compare that side by side. If I've gone in and I've worked with a student for 3 weeks and I'm working with the teacher and I don't see a movement in the data at all, there's a problem. There's a problem with either my leadership, my effectiveness with support, or there's just or a test, there's something wrong that we have to decide what's going on. And so there's high accountability. We are assessing our students weekly. We are spiraling back all of those low teaks, and then we are assessing the quality of our support. And this happens regularly. I'm on Dr. Henson's calendar regularly because your eyes can start to cross when you start looking at too many numbers. And so I regularly call him, Dr. Parker, Mr. Galloway, to sit down, help me look at these numbers. This is what we've done. This is what it was. This is what it is now. What am I missing? What am I not seeing? And so it's an all hands on deck approach. We are retesting. We retested today. And I'm excited about the gains that we saw on that. And then the next one we will do another major benchmark will be in March to make sure that we are on track.
You retested today, you've already seen results of that retesting?
Yes, I'm like a psycho. So I go and I grab it, and then we scan it. And then the next class test, and then we go, we grab it, and we scan it again. And so, yes, we saw increases, but to 65% was for third grade reading, which was great because last week we weren't seeing what we needed to see. And what I mean by the qualitative is when I was walking around and I charged my teacher was walking around and watching what are the students doing while they are taking the test. Students were struggling with stamina, getting all the way through. They were doing things like, you have 4 answer choices. If the first one looks good, great. Not evaluating, okay, what does B say? What does C say? What does D say? And so I sat down with that teacher. We've also had some teacher moves on our campus. We switched some teachers around. Sat down with the teacher and said, what are we gonna do? We retaught it. And then it instantly jumped up. And so that was exciting. And so the last thing that I'm gonna close with is we're doing what we call exit tickets. We were doing them, but we weren't doing them with fidelity. And so it is mandated in every class, 3 through 5 at the end, that there is a very tiny assessment, 1 question, 2 questions, that assesses what the students knew immediately. We're using a platform called Clicker, so the teacher just uses their phone and they scan it. It takes 2 seconds and it instantly tabulates 50% of this group understood what I taught today. That gives us the opportunity to say, well, what are we gonna do differently tomorrow? We realize the teachers need support in utilizing and adjusting instruction. And so, meaning you got the data, did we just keep teaching? Did we stop? Did we adjust? What did we do to mitigate that issue? More in-class support, and so that's with us going in and supporting daily. Our unit tests being more reflective of the rigor and length represented on the CBA. So the CBA that they took in November, that was their first time since, well, for some of them, they've never taken a test of that length. For 5th graders, they haven't taken that since they were 3rd graders. That was the first time in a year, over a year, that they sat down and taken a test of that length. So that was part of the problem as well. So we will have more tests built like that to give them practice in that platform. And there's more focused leader support. And we call it whack-a-mole. What we were doing the first semester was, like I said, we see a problem, go fix the problem. And then this is the problem, so I fix this problem. That's done. If I'm with this teacher, that's my teacher. And short of the building catching on fire, God forbid, we're not moving off of our partner teacher until we see gains. So, are there any questions?
Thank you for that, Ms. Evans.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So next, we'll move on to continue with the presentation, the financial report by Mr. Lawrence Galloway.
Good evening again, Board President, Board members, Dr. Henson. Take this off for the month of December. This is our financial report to close out the end of the 2nd quarter of our 2021 fiscal year. As stated before, I'm going to present you by 3 months trend so that you all can kind of see the trend going forward for this year. I wanted to point out that we've also discussed and talked about in previous board meetings how towards the end of the school year we don't receive as much from the state because that's when property taxes are due. So as you can see during the month of December, that number has drastically shrunk. So as for the month of January, we will start to see people and other businesses, and we're starting to receive property taxes from the county, from local governments to make sure that we are able to sustain. So Dr. Henson so eloquently has stated, this is not money for us to actually play with at the time, because we have to coast during the time when the state doesn't pay us during the fiscal year, and this is that time that we are using those funds to make sure that we can sustain payroll and other liabilities and bills that we have during this time period. So for January, again, for our local revenue, and you will start to see a significant increase as individuals pay their property taxes. So this number, there is an adjustment, or we're tracking it monthly in our fund balance, but this adjustment was built up from the prior months to make sure that we are able to sustain. Another thing I would like to point out is that you will see a difference in our function 32, I apologize, which is social work services. And as we start to invest more in our social emotional learning for our students after COVID, making sure that they have counseling, making sure they have COVID testing and other things of that nature to make sure that they are safe and healthy, we are going to do an adjustment of the budget in that area, not increasing the budget necessarily, but making sure that we support those students academically as well as social and emotional to get the services that they need. Are there any questions before we move forward?
What is the fund balance right now?
Say it again.
Fund balance right now?
So the fund balance right now, taking to the expenses that we got in the month of December, it would reflect on paper that we have the negative 1.2 million, but as I look at the account, it's actually the 6.6 million that we kind of discussed a little bit earlier with the audit that we have. But some of those are unrestricted and some of those are already budgeted for us to continue to spend.
Okay.
The financial report again for the food service is as students continue to eat and we continue to get reimbursements for our child nutrition program. It is steady and it's in line for the month of December as we end out the year. Towards the end of December, she makes sure that she also does a lot of her, we go through and sit down and look at all of her reports to make sure we have been reimbursed for the appropriate amount as we gear up for the spring semester. Also, we're going to see us starting to plan for summer. As we do summer programs, we will be feeding those students as well. They're also eligible for the CEP program that we have to eat free, to make sure they have lunch, breakfast, and a light snack. And then finally, our investment report. As I mentioned earlier, I was mentioning about the balance that we have. It's about 6.4 actually that we see in the bank account. Our investments, the monthly interest earned was about $5 towards the end of the month. Also, I did want to point out, if you notice in the audit report, he mentioned some things that we need to diversify with our investments. And I think I brought that up previously. And during this fiscal year, we're going to have some presentations when it comes to investments and things like that, where we can diversify and make sure that we have our money invested in the right places that can make us money. Are there any questions about the December financials?
The diversity in investments that you were talking about, what else can you invest in?
So, of course, with the school district, there's certain things that we can invest in. Right now, we're just in tech school as far as all of our money is sitting there. We get a very good interest rate, most likely because we're a large depositor in the area for bank board. But there are also other options in which we can diversify within legal ramifications for a school district that might yield us some higher earnings just on our money and banking with bank board. So we do have the opportunity just to explore. It's not necessary. It's just something to think about and something.
And we're not the fiscal agent for the co-op, are we?
We are.
We are the fiscal agent.
We are.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So this is Marlin ISD money only?
Yes. This is Marlin ISD money, and the co-op money is tracked separate.
Tracked separate. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Now, I would love to take the co-ops, but no, yes, it's tracked separately. And when we do our fiscal agent, they do look at different samples, but they are audited and self-filed themselves as well as their own.
Okay. Okay.
And next is the standard December check registry. This is just a snippet. You all have a full report in your board book, just to show you that checks are going out on time. We have definitely put in some processes to make sure that our vendors are happy and that they are paid for the services that they rendered, at least within a week's time for it. It's always our goal. any other questions about it? And this is just part of the financial audit as just part of the consent agenda. So we have it in as we mentioned earlier, but any other additional questions that we may need to bring back to the audit before it's voted on tonight. And next, I'm going to move on to Mr. Tomato to close.
Good afternoon, Board President Johnson, members of the board, Dr. Henson. Today I will be proposing our resolution for COVID-19 leave. What we currently have in place through the Family First Corona Response Act is if the employees are eligible from April 1st to December 31st, and they receive up to 2 weeks of full pay or 10 days of regular pay job protected leave. Also, if they have a child that's under the age of 18 and their school has to close down due to COVID reasons, or the daycare has to close down, they receive their pay at 2/3 employees' regular leave. Also, the amount of leave taken from April 1st to December 31st is limited to a total of 80 hours. So this did expire already. So what I'm proposing today, with your consent, is that we extend this leave for our employees. What I'm proposing today is still the 2 weeks up to 80 hours of regular pay for our employees that have to quarantine either for testing positive, exposure. So we will extend this leave with your consent tonight. Also, the amount of leave taken from January 4th to June 4th will expire on June 4th of 2021. So the employees will still get the 2 weeks, up to 10 days of regular pay. And then if they have a child under the age of 18 and their school gets closed down due to COVID, they will receive up to 2/3 of regular pay. This is only if the employees have not exhausted the current leave that expired December 31st. So if the employees already exhausted that leave, they're not eligible to receive this extension going forward until the end of June. The qualifying reasons, you have to be an employee for at least 30 days, and then also employees who have not exhausted the Family First Corona Response Act leave will qualify for the extension of what we're proposing tonight. Any questions?
Same question as before. Is there reimbursement money for this?
No, sir.
No.
Even for the Family First Corona Leave Act,
There was no funding that went with it.
So no funding that went to this particularly for this leave, but of course, all of the CARES Act money and COVID money that came in from the federal government. One could say it could be looked as a reimbursement, but nothing particularly for this.
Okay.
So just the biggest thing to take away is if the employees already exhausted their leave, then they'll qualify.
But you don't see this as something that would put a financial pressure on the school's budget?
No, sir, we've been doing this since June, so.
And it's been minimal impact?
Minimal impact.
Okay.
And we're also tracking all the employees that have taken leave. I have a spreadsheet of all the employees that have taken that, so anybody that's eligible will obviously not be on that sheet.
All right. Thank you.
All right, Dr. Stacy Parker with House Bill 3, Board Goals.
Right, good afternoon again, Board President Johnson, members of the board, Dr. Henson. I want to present tonight about our House Bill 3 Board Goals. So the House Bill 3 goals set growth standards for the percent of third grade students that score meets grade level or above on STAR reading and math from 2021 through the 2025 school year. The House Bill 3 goals also measure the growth in the percentage of graduates that meet the criteria for our CCMR, which is our college, career, and military readiness. These growth goals are set based on the 2019 STAR measures and attainable growth measures through targeted strategies and instructional plans. Marlin ISD is proposing tonight that the House Bill 3 board goals and plans be adopted as I present. I want to also show you in the presentation that these were our current 2019 percentage for each category. So for all subjects at meets or above. So it does not take into consideration approaches level. So for meets or above in all subjects, Marlin ISD in 2019 was at a 19%. For our ELA and reading, we were at 18%. Mathematics, 20%, writing, 10%, science, 18%, and social studies, 37%. So first part of the House Bill 3 goes look at early childhood literacy. And so for early childhood literacy, it also requires that we break the goals down by our subpopulations. So for 2021, we are proposing an increase for our African American population of 25%. We want to set our goal that 25% of our African American students will be at meets or above in the literacy scores for STAR. And again, this measures third grade students. So for 2022 through 2025, I propose a 10% increase to show a reasonable gain for our students from year to year as we focus on our strategies to meet the goals. Same if we look at our Hispanic population based on their scores from 2019, we propose 20% as a base, and then again increase them 10 percentage points each year through 2025 to reach us at the 60% level. Currently in our district, we do not have the number of white students to make a decision on growth goals if you have to have at least 25 or more in a category, and we have not historically had. So I did not create goals. If this change in the years to come, we will modify and bring forth those goals to adjust for a white student population. For our economically disadvantaged, starting with a base point of 25% and increasing again 10 percentage points each year. Our enrolled, oh my God, I've drawn a blank. Continuous enrolled, our continuously enrolled students, forgive me, we're starting at a base of 25%, and those are the students that continue to be enrolled in Marlin ISD through all the testing phases, and then our non-continuous enrolled, we made the same gains. So a part of the House Bill 3 goals is to outline, we had to be very targeted in outlining supports that we plan to put in place to meet these goals. And so when we're talking about early childhood literacy, one of our strategies is partnering with Region 12 Service Center to implement the Reading Academy. That is actually a requirement of the state, and that is very intensive professional development and professional growth of all of our teachers of literacy. We're also going to have continue with our implementation of our academic intervention plans, using those instructional resources and weekly progress monitors that we put in place, as Ms. Edwards presented earlier as a great example of how we're continuously monitoring and we're meeting our growth goals. And then we're going to focus on explicit phonics instructions in our grades pre-K through second grade to build their instructional foundation so that when they get to third grade, that they demonstrate a high level of proficiency in these categories. The House Bill 3 goals also look at the same for elementary, for early childhood mathematics. And so again, looking at the percentages based on prior 2019 data, we started the African American population at 30%, and then 10 percentage points increased to 70%. The mathematics scores for 2019 were slightly higher than literacy, so that's why you'll see a slight increase in our growth goals. Hispanic starting at a base point of 35% and moving them up to 75. Again, not a sufficient amount of our white student population to set goals. We're looking at our economically disadvantaged starting at a base point of 30%, increasing 10 percentage points to 70%, and then our continuously enrolled 35%, 10 percentage points to 75, and non-continuously enrolled starting at 25%, increasing 10 percentage points to 65%. So same thing for, similar to literacy, but our strategies to meet our mathematics goal is again, the implementation of those academic intervention plans, using those instructional resources and that same weekly progress monitoring. But we're also going to focus on early numeracy in pre-kindergarten through second grade, using those instructional resources and tools, and also looking at our baseline and our universal screener data to target our needs.
And the state has set goals at 60% for on grade level for every school district in the state of Texas.
And so, lastly, for House Bill 3, looking at our college, career, and military readiness, we did look at that data for 2019 and based where we were overall as a district of 32%. We started our African American population with 2021 with a growth goal of 40%, increasing 5% each year to get us to 60%. We looked at, in that particular instance for our high school population, we did not have a sufficient number of Hispanic or white population students based on historical data to make projections. So looking at our economically disadvantaged students, we started a base of 35% and increased to 40% and 5 percentage points to 55, and then our continuously enrolled at 40%, increasing 5 percentage points to 60. And again, we did not have the sufficient number of students in the non-continuously enrolled at the high school level. So strategies to meet these goals, we're actually realigning our high school graduation plans to distinguished level of achievement, including adding endorsements. We are actively preparing our students to take the Texas Success Initiative, the TSI exam, through the weekly intervention schedule and progress monitoring. We also have our students now currently being required to enroll in college prep English and college prep math courses, and then we're offering industry-based certification programs. And all of this to strengthen our high school students' readiness for college, career, or military. Any questions?
Yes, ma'am. Would you go back and explain under your CCMR there, the first strategies to meet goals, the realignment part there? I just want you to explain that a little more about what does that really mean?
Okay, so when we talk about high school graduation plans, there are several tracks that we put our students on. There is a foundations plan, one where students just meet the bare minimum requirements for graduation, and then there's different levels. And the distinguished level places our students at a higher capacity to be more prepared if they're going to enter college by taking Algebra 2, taking the college prep math and English courses, taking higher levels of courses to get them ready for college. So distinguished level of achievement mean that those students meet those certain requirements and number of courses that they take. And so we're actually setting that as our foundation expectation for all of the students. So when they meet to get their grad plans, we're giving them at the distinguished level, meaning they're going to have a set number of courses that they take instead of the minimum maybe 3.
So you're creating higher categories, not lower categories.
That is correct.
That was my question. Okay.
Any other questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
part of our proposed Senate Bill 1882 campus partnership, we do have to adopt an authorizing mission and core vision for the operating partner. Ours is going to be centered around a focus on early childhood learning, literacy, numeracy, and social emotional development, as well as college pre-military readiness. Notice how every goal that we have in the district, from all of our targeted improvement plans to our intervention plans to our board goals to our House Bill 3 goals, they're all saying the same thing, because we have a strategic focus on the elementary school. If we build them there, it'll funnel to the middle school as well as to the high school. We want to make sure that by the spring of 2023, next spring or that following school year spring, all of our kids at the elementary school are able to grow 1.5 years. We understand that growing a year's growth is not going to be enough. So we're going to hold the partner responsible for showing growth of 1.5 years. So that's going to be our proposed mission and core vision for Marlin Elementary School with the operating partner. Are there any questions? Now I would like for my executive team to join me. And I'm going to turn this over to Dr. Stacy Parker, kind of for the main reason why we're here today, is with the introduction to our 180 and 180.
Thank you. Good evening. So, Board President Johnson, members of the board, we wanted to highlight the 180 and 180. And so just to explain and give background to what that means, our proud superintendent, Dr. Daryl Henson, has been on board in the district now for approximately 6 months, 180 days. And so in 180 days, we've done a 180-degree turn in terms of the level of support, the resources, some of the many upgrades and changes that we've made for the year. So we coined the term 180 and 180. And so we want to present to you today our summer and fall 2020 review. And we're going to do this through a presentation. We will all
And as we were going through this, I think it definitely took myself and the entire team back to say, wow, look at what has been accomplished in Marlin ISD over the past 6 to 7 months. So we broke it down into 5 categories to speak about the truth about the background. What were some of our initial challenges? Moving on to our org structure, of course, the big piece of it, academics. Then we're going to brag a little bit on the great things happening in Marlin ISD on our campus with our students. So the true 180, 180. And then ultimately our path to success. Whenever we think about our initial challenges, they're both at the internal and external level. Externally, the majority of the press was bad. For me, doing a lot of my research, when you put Marlin ISD into Google and hit news, it was hard to find a positive news story. Internally, we have to understand that there were issues as it relates to communication, curriculum, internal systems. And if I go back here, this is just a reality. Our ratings we were an overall F, but we were an FFC. F for the elementary, F for the middle, and F for the high school, with over a decade of poor performance. And so we have to understand that even on the very first day, I got to the office about 7:30. By 7:31, I was slapped with 4 grievances. Day one, didn't even have time to put the book back down and get a honey bun. That is just what we walked into here in the district. And whenever we think about a strategic focus, I think by now we could say for myself and the team, for the principals, everything has to have a plan. It has to be on paper, and A has to connect to B, and B has to connect to C. And we don't jump to Z, we go D, E, F, and we work our way off that. So we have to make sure that when we walked into this, we were truly walking into random acts of improvement. And Mr. Gallo will speak about our organizational structure.
So originally, Marlin ISD had a structure with the superintendent and other central office individuals that really was not getting the support to the campuses that was really needed. So under Dr. Henson's leadership and talking to others, he restructured so to make sure that campuses had support, specifically that our elementary campus had support, and that all of our students were successful with the support instructionally, academically on campus. So from that, you all as a board did create two positions, student services and school improvement. So that spawned into me, as you see here today, into making sure we support campuses with Dr. Parker, and then also the Director of Technology and everyone else is spawned out of our repurposed positions that were already here within the district. So now we have streamlined success and hierarchy when it comes to support from finances, academics, maintenance, facilities, and everyone knows their lane. So because of this new structure, there's a lot less of people getting in each other's way and able to focus on the main thing, our students. So based on this, as you can see, like I just mentioned, the position of student services was created by the board prior to Dr. Henson coming, and that position was filled by Dr. Parker. And also the only position that was added in the midst of the changing of administration was an administrative assistant that assists with HR to make sure that we have those supports that, because we walked into an HR audit, that everything is correct and that we are compliant based on federal and state regulations. Some of the strengths that we have as an organizational structure now are the clear roles and duties, as I mentioned earlier. The new administration has a proven track record of expertise. We have hired what we feel are some of the people that are the best in their field in the area, in the region, also maybe even in the state. Some of the weaknesses that we do have are 4 out of 5 of the executive cabinet members are new to the district and are still learning the culture. But I enjoy myself a fried rib every now and then so I can continue to learn about it. And the chicken place as well. I come for the peach cobbler quite frequently. Every day. But this is part of the growing process that we've been here as well. Another piece that was a weakness was informing and supporting and holding all leaders accountable, that we struggled with finding the data from the previous administration to make sure that we were going forward. And lastly, as we talked about the bad press, we talked about the new excellence in mindset, with a hiring of administration that is competent, that's supportive of our teachers, changing that culture, building that culture to make sure that they are supported in everything that they do on campus. Also, we were cited in several news articles about the turnaround efforts, about the individuals that have come to Marlin ISD, specifically because these children deserve the exact same education as anyone in the region, in the state, and in the world. So with the organizational structure, we feel that our students are getting a world-class education and we're on our way to greatness. And I'm going to pass it over to academics and Dr. Parker.
Right, academics, the meat of it. So before you start to dive into what to do, you always have to look at the historical data. And so in my prior presentation, I talked to you all about the historically low scores in all core subject areas. And so not only are we targeting our goals and instructional strategies for success, but we're going for needs. I like approaches that mean we're getting there, but we put all eyes on how we can get our students to that needs level. So in looking at that, we looked at each of our campuses. And so starting with elementary, we looked at our current focus on data. And so as the question asked earlier by Mr. Vickers, what type of data were we using historically? Well, there were not a lot of measures for where our students were. And so we needed to implement some assessments that would give us a baseline of where our students were and where we needed to take them. So the first one was, of course, our NWEA, that's our universal screener. At the elementary level, I presented to you all earlier this school year about the beginning of the year, we needed to see where our students were and approximately where were we standing in terms of the growth that we needed to achieve. And as you all were made aware, we were sitting at 1 to 2 year deficits in our elementary grade level. We then had to look at literacy and putting a lens and a focus on literacy. So as I presented today, we did immediately look at the M-Class Amplify reading inventory, which requires teachers to sit with students and go through the phonics pieces and the literacy aspects to see where our students really are in terms of their literary competency. Achieve 3000 is one of those reports, again, that dives into both literacy and mathematics, and it gives our students ongoing practice in those areas so that it continually strengthens and reinforces their knowledge. Lone Star Governance, as I present tonight, gets a look at where our students are literacy-wise, their Lexile levels, diving deep into their capacity to read at grade level, looking at mathematics, where they're performing at a grade level, and again, we highlight what our goals are as set by the board and where we stand currently. And so this is a constant measure of the gains that we need to make. Then, of course, as we've taught throughout the year, as Ms. Edwards presented, we did measure looking at our curriculum-based assessment in all of our core STAR-tested areas, and we constantly look at our students at grade levels and where they are in terms of approaches, meets, and masters. So we always have a lens on how our students are progressing forward. Then, of course, we have our academic goals, and I shared these goals with you all tonight. In terms of elementary, we're looking again at our early childhood literacy and mathematics. And then how are we going to get there? We have looked at our resources, and we have really aligned our resources targeted to our curriculum. And so for elementary, we are utilizing Think Central, Go Math for our mathematics. We're using Amplify for our literacy, Science Fusion for science. We have our Frog Street curriculum for our pre-kindergarten students. Open Court also supports and solidifies our literacy. We have programs in Achieve for mathematics and literacy. And then now this year, new, thanks to Mr. Lejeune, we have a quick link dashboard that students and teachers can access to quickly go into these programs so it's not overwhelming. It's like a one-stop shop, and we have other programs such as Brain Pop Junior, Prodigy. These are all programs to help our students and strengthen them in the content area. Moving through middle, we follow the same projection, and again, we look at NWEA for our middle school. For middle school, the reading inventory that was required by the state was a target on 7th grade students. And we wanted to see what impact early reading results had in terms of where our 7th graders are for literacy. And so we did take the iStation ISIP exam. And so a quick lens on that shows that 29% of our 7th graders are reading on level, 22% need some support, and 49% need extensive intervention. And so we are working through our intervention programs for that. We also have Achieve 3000 for our middle school students. And in terms of Lone Star Governance, we also measure middle school performance in terms of reading Lexile levels and mathematics levels as well. We did take our CDA data in the core tested areas for middle school. And again, just like I explained for elementary, it tracks and we are able to see exactly who's at approaches, meets, and masters level. For our academic goals, there are not currently House Bill 3 goals that govern middle school, but our board student outcome goals give us a spotlight on our 6th through 8th graders, again, as measuring their competencies in literacy and mathematics. And the same as our elementary, for middle school, we have similar resources that extend to our middle school students, but we also utilize the STAVUS, which is formerly Pearson, for our literature. We use Science Fusion at the middle school level, and our middle school students have access to the same instructional resources through the ClassLink dashboard. Spotlighting through high school. We have NWEA at our 9th and 10th grade level, so we do look at Algebra 1, English 1 and 2 performance, and so we have the same data that was presented for our BOY. And I do want to note here that we are currently in the midst of our middle of the year exams, and so I'm excited to present to you all in the future board meeting on our middle of the year data results so we can see growth gains there. We also use Achieve 3000. And we also tested our curriculum-based assessment in English 1, Algebra 1, Biology, and History. You don't see a lot of measures for our history scores, and so we did measure those students as well to see what their performance would be. High school, I presented tonight, are governed by the House Bill 3 goals through the college, career, and military readiness. And then for the board goals, we do monitor our Algebra 1 scores through our board goals. And then for our high school, we use similar resources. We use our SIBES for our literacy. We have Elevate K through 12. We also have Agile Minds as an additional support for our algebra. They also use Achieve Math and Literacy at the high school level. Reading Spot, which I didn't talk to elementary and middle, is our extensive digital library. So notice we're in our learning space, but we did not do away with books. And aside from having extensive classroom libraries, our students have access to over 4,000 titles from the elementary level all the way through high school. And for high school, by the time we get from elementary and we go all the way through high school, we have some intended results. Definitely graduation is the ultimate goal. And our goal again is to increase our graduation rate, to have all of our seniors graduate ready for college, career, and military, as I talked to earlier. Definitely looking at our pathways and what we are going to offer. Right now, we're offering some tracks in business accounting services, in keeping with our ag mechanical services, and cosmetology and professional care services. So really expanding and looking into our pathways for our graduates. And then coming very soon, we will have an exciting masterclass program in where we highlight our fine arts program through looking at cosmetology, agriculture, business, technology, and the arts, dance, band. And so once we look at all of our different schools and our resources that we have, how do we get them there? We move to go through an aligned curriculum. As you know, historically, our teachers had the Teach Resource System, which provided no daily guides to support for pacing, nor was it really aligned to any of those great resources that I just shared with you. So we implemented an understanding by design philosophy around our curriculum, which is planning with the end in mind. This is a new structure for curriculum. It provides support for planning and creating instructional plans for our teachers. It also supports backwards design planning and unit guides with resource alignments to align those resources to our scope and sequence. And I just want to give a quick image of what that looks like for a teacher here, providing that support of the focus of the week and giving them the specific lessons to click into to begin and structure their planning. Our intended outcomes by aligning our curriculum resources and instructional practices through our professional learning communities, student achievement and teacher capacity will improve. And I'm glad that I'm following behind the lovely Ms. Edwards, because she is a great example of how all of this ties in together with on the campus. And just highlighting that we are providing those supports through a lesson cycle for teachers to follow, weekly structured PLC objectives for them to guide them in their increased knowledge of delivering excellent lessons to our students. And lastly, with academic support, we are growing as educators here in Marlin. So we did take a snapshot of our personnel, what do we have to work with? We currently have 51 teachers, 25 at the elementary level, 11 at the middle school level, and 15 at the high school level. We currently have 11 teachers with less than 5 years experience, so focusing on our new inexperienced teachers is a must. We have 27 instructional aides that we do have spread across our campuses to support our teachers and our students. And then all of this is possible through intensive professional development. We are committed to excellence. We provide social emotional training, not only to our students, but to our staff. We have impact coaching to help improve the instructional practices at our secondary campuses. We use Region 12. They are here coaching our teachers in early childhood and secondary core content classes. We have targeted content support in literacy and mathematics, and we do this through targeted professional development days that are embedded in our academic calendar year. We are asking and looking at our long-term staffing needs. We will continue to support academic success, and we want to add the following specialists and experienced teachers. We want to focus in and lock in on master teachers. Moving forward, hiring reading specialists and mathematics specialists. As you've seen, there's a lot of focus on early literacy, early mathematics, and so we really need to provide our teachers with really skilled professionals here at Marlin to help our students grow. And that's academics.
And so our 180, 180 will be shared by Mr. Bustamante and Mr. Lejeune.
So for 180, 180, for human resources, you want to go?
Sure, I'll go ahead. So fortunately, we were pretty lucky to have already sort of built the foundation for improving the technologies in our ISD. But over the last several months, it has not been that long. We have implemented a lot of specific upgrades, purchases, and devices, things like that for students. So first of all, we added 510 new Chromebooks that we're using towards one-to-one. I think this is a big one for the community. We also have a second grade lab set of Chromebooks at the elementary to get them started using those keyboards, as we mentioned in our newspaper articles. We bought 74 new iPads for K through 2 to use. We were lucky enough to participate in a couple different programs for 350 hotspots. We purchased 85 learning displays, such as this one, for different classrooms to replace old projectors. And then we have secure charging lockers on every campus, such as that one over there. Wi-Fi upgrades, we used some of our E-rate money that we had from last year, and then we also decided to make all those one-to-one games and all those device games actually work in our buildings, that we were going to finish out our wireless access points, so we have strong Wi-Fi in every classroom. And then also at the very, very beginning of the year, whenever Dr. Hinson started, we started working on upgrading our website to focus on consistency and compliance. So that's what it was like before. And then after, we have everything is easier to read, specifically that our campuses have similar structures and similar ways that everything works together. Let's see what's next. Human resources.
And
Yes, sir.
those are secure charging lockers for Chromebooks?
They have outlets inside, so they will work with Chromebooks, cell phones, laptops, any device that a student wants to bring up. They just punch in their own code, or they can make up a code, a locker pops open, and they can charge their device.
Where are those located?
One in each learning center, at each campus, one at each gym.
And nothing in there that they can't get home to, right?
What do you mean?
I'm trying to, if you have to charge your device, you can still charge it in the plug at the house too.
As long as you, yes, they should bring, you have to
Cord,
charge
whatever,
cord,
right.
but it has outlets just like you would have anywhere in the house.
In other words, these are not the only place they can charge those. Okay. Just curious.
So for human resources, we wanted to make sure, one of the first things when we got here, we wanted to make sure that we were paying our employees accurately. One of the first things we did was we had Region 12 conduct a payroll audit for our certified employees. And these are the findings that Region 12 found for the payroll audit. We did have to make 4 changes that were immediate concerns for 5 of our employees. And these are the changes that we made to their salary, and also our fingerprint process. We didn't have an actual process for making sure that all of our employees were fingerprinted before they started work. So we implemented a process now, and now we have all of our employees fingerprinted. And then the changes that we made, if there was a significant impact on their salary, we changed only half of it now and then half of it next year. And then we will notify the rest of the employees for the changes for next year, according to the payroll audit, 45 days prior to instruction of next year. Also, HR software, we had Frontline, but we weren't using it effectively. Our employees were still requesting leave on paper, and timesheets were still manually inputted, and it just took a lot of man hours. So what we did now is we trained all of our employees, our principals, the managers for Frontline for each campus, and now we're able to just pull reports and make sure that we pull accurate time for payroll. And we're paying employees accurate based on the time that they worked, and we're not just paying based on what they tell us that they worked. And also this is saving us a lot more time in our department because we're able to provide the campus what they need as far as HR services. So it gives us just more time for that customer service aspect of our job. And then employee recognitions. Making sure that our employees are recognized for the hard work that they do for Marlin ISD.
So then leadership, as we talked about leadership, we found a great structure to make sure we had a solid foundation in who's leading the campuses, who's leading what department, who's leading the building. With Dr. Hinton at the helm, we made sure that we wanted to have a team that was efficient, competent, and able to start and get the job done. So what we've done is, along with leadership comes accountability and making sure that we evaluate all of our employees to make sure that they are on track, to make sure they are performing. So we designed as an executive cabinet team, as well as input from principals and other campus administrators, the design the Marlin ISD. Well, we had input to T-test and also our principal evaluation with T-PET. A lot of this is from the state, but they were able to see the evaluation to give their feedback, also provide feedback to their principals or their supervisor. And we are in the process of the T-test, T-PET season right now as we start to do evaluations and have those conversations with employees. Another thing is coaching. So each month we also have a principals meeting with executive cabinet and other directors in the district where we talk about the pressing issues or things that are coming up in the next month. But more specifically about the coaching, our principals receive one-to-one coaching at least once a month. Some of them are a little more regular than others, just depending on the need of the campus, to make sure that someone is there with them, because most of the time they may have a issue that you can't necessarily go to your supervisor for, but you can have a coach to kind of coach you through the process to make sure that it is at the level that or the expectation that is part of the evaluation. Another program that we started this year is called the Marlin Leadership Pipeline, which they meet on a regular basis. And this is with our instructional coaches, our deans of instruction, and assistant principals. It preps them and gives them an opportunity to put their toe into the water of the principalship or move into the next level. So they do different exercises, they go through different professional development, but it's an opportunity to say, I'm a part of Marlin ISD growing me as a professional educator, and I'm here. And what we look for is eventually this program will lead into the principalship, into central office position. I mentioned principal meetings as this is an example of how often we meet. An agenda of our actual principal meeting, Dr. Hinton himself presenting at the principal meeting, and the things that we talk about, the data, the MOI, the attendance plan. All of this is very much so cycled through our principals. They have input, and then we present it to each other, and we talk about it, and we like to say we throw it at the wall to see what will work best for our students. Our executive cabinet meetings also have the same structure, very fine-tuned, and everyone has input in what is discussed. What do they see as a pressing issue in their department, in their area, that may need the input of academics, technology, or human resources before we make a final decision. So everyone is very transparent, and everyone communicates to make sure that we are moving the district forward.
If you notice, we begin and end each meeting with commitments. Every member of the team has to commit to doing something, because this is clearly my brain on paper. Okay, I'm going to track everything from decisions to actions to who's been what, the amount of time you have to seek about the actual process. But in the end, we have to make sure that I'm able to hold my team accountable for when it's due and what's processed. Is it due tomorrow? Is it in process? Is it due by this Friday? Or do we get rid of Monday? Just to make sure that we're achieving the goals of the district. So we begin and end with commitments.
So I'm sure these slides are familiar to you all. We submit our sort of big accomplishments. The nicest ones have pictures and blurs, but some like mine are just listed very which is fine. Every department reports on that list. And we also did, at the beginning of the year, you guys heard a lot about it, or
You're sitting
your distinguished selves heard a lot about it. We don't just need to move, we need jet fuel to take off, is what Dr. Darrell said at the beginning of the year. And I think we're not even, well, we're a good portion away through our 180 and 180, and you're seeing a lot of things that we've been doing. This one is probably, okay. I'm just going to kind of go proceed through these. So we had a convocation at the beginning of the year. That was a lot of fun. We brought everybody in. They get the hype from the new faces that they're going to start seeing. That was really great. We have had a teacher town hall, a student town hall. We are doing a employee climate and culture survey that went out last Friday. We're going to start looking at that. So it's very important for us to take a temperature of the school community and find out what things we're doing well, what things we need to improve on. One of the big projects that we did at the very beginning of the year is that every student got school supplies this year. It was a tough time for kids to go back to school. We definitely knew that was the case. We got together and worked with a partner vendor to get that done.
So with student services, we look at diving into the counseling department. So I work with the counselors and we meet weekly to discuss not only how they can support academic achievement, but how we can help build awareness and wellness of our students. So some of the images that you see is how we did wear red to prevent bullying. That was the Stomp Out Bullying Day. So all of our students were encouraged to wear red. We had purple for awareness with domestic violence. And so in partnership, I'm a part of the task force with Falls County and our counselors. We really are focusing in on bringing awareness and ending domestic violence. Our students here and our teaching staff were in pink. And so of course that was in honor of cancer, bringing breast cancer awareness. And you see here our counselor, Ms. Armstead at the elementary level, Ms. Jefferson at the middle school level, and we're missing Ms. Driska from the high school, but we wanted to bring forward the wellness of our students and awareness, and so we are mindful now to start celebrating and supporting those initiatives. Health services. I also meet regularly with our nursing staff, and we're in the process now of expanding our network to provide quality health services for our students. I presented to y'all earlier this year about our ability now to be a rapid COVID testing site for our students, and this helps keep our students in school. So our students that may be concerned with symptoms, they now will be able to connect with the nurse. The nurse has the ability now through a partnership with Virtual Care Families to consult with a teledoc. So we're actually a teledoc site. And so our students can actually see a doctor, and then the nurses are coached from the doctor on the next steps. And so that could be administering allergy medicines, doing a COVID-19 test, or even a strep test. And this again is in partnership with our families consent to this, and that's how we're bridging our health services and improving that for all of our students. Keeping healthy kids in school, that is our motto. Then family and community engagement. As you heard earlier, we've done turkey giveaways, we've conducted town halls, not only for our students and staff, but for our parents. We are now involving them in having a voice in some of the major decisions we are making. We put posts out on Facebook inviting families out to, we had a virtual academy meeting so that we can talk to our parents more about what it looked like to learn virtually. We had virtual parent training in Google Classroom. So not only are we inviting them in to give them information, but we very much want to support them and be partners with us. We have parent chat nights that we are going to have on a regular basis where we discuss certain topics that's open to everyone. And we're having upcoming parent forums. So one of the biggest needs, one of the things that I did see is that we had not historically done enough to bring families in and make them a part of the process. And so that is one of the unique things that we have started this year, and we plan to definitely continue. And then I know that anyone can jump in, but we plan to engage the community through modern methods of social media and communication.
I've been here 5 years, and over the last 5 years, 4.5 years, all of these would have been my responsibility. So I think you can appreciate the time that I had to do all that stuff was pretty much none. So I'm extremely fortunate to have some leadership partners with me that can do some of this stuff. So let's dive in real quick. We got our Facebook off the ground and running. It's supposed to be regular. We have various staff in the district. We post regularly on Twitter. Thank you, Mr. Ely. Taking some good pictures. We recognize excellence of our staff and our students and things like that on Twitter. Is most of how we do that and engage with other learning professionals by retweeting, sharing all that business. We have, as I mentioned already, our new and improved website for communication and compliance to serve as more of a static, existing information repository for the people. We have our new marquees that can show the community, anybody that rolls around can see that we take pride in our school. And then we are working on developing some new partnerships, some partner vendors to help us achieve some of our goals. None of that stuff has really happened as far as my experience. Let's see.
So we also talked, Dr. Parker talked about earlier the PLC structure. Part of that was a brainchild from the PLC that they looked at data.
What's a PLC, Mr. Galloway?
PLC is a professional learning community in which we've structured it for every single teacher in the district. So every single teacher, for example, math teachers get together and they plan together. So they're able to vertically plan 6th, 7th, and 8th to figure out what's going on, what's the best way to teach it to make sure that we're all on one accord. Just to give an example, but all teachers have a PLC period in their school day to make sure that they are planning, working with other teachers, working with their instructional leaders, working with their lesson planning to make sure they are prepared for the next day. So part of the structured PLC with an outline that is checked on regularly and is supported by Region 12, who also comes in and teaches our instructional leaders how to have a proper PLC. What are the questions that you need to ask and how do you give proper feedback? We also put into the schedule, in addition to middle school that already had an intervention period, we changed the intervention schedule at secondary, elementary also had an intervention period as well. The intervention period means this student or this time frame is to give a student extended time in academics. It could be in reading, it could be in math, but this is more intense and more intense and more functional as far as it's very strategic in working with this student who may be struggling with addition. So I'll have that time, that teacher, and they are separated or grouped based on an example by Ms. Edwards today, how teachers and what teachers work with those kids that are struggling. Chance for Success was a phenomenal brainchild from Dr. Parker and Dr. Henson for helping students that may not have been successful during the COVID transition. So they had the opportunity to exceed academically, to have a second chance to make sure that they did understand the material, because the overall goal is to make sure that they make those academic gains. So we're supporting them even if they weren't successful the first time, to show now that us, actually, the executive cabinet and school leadership, stepped in to tutor students at the middle and the high school level. We were in the learning centers with pencils, calculators, helping students with whatever assignments they may need assistance with. And then that went back to the campus to show the academic growth needed to be successful during that COVID time.
So this is another thing that we talked a lot about. We are in one of the spaces right now, just to give a real reminder of sort of where we started. High school library had that big thing there. It's an unused room because we were going to one-to-one, so there's no need for computers anymore. And then once we got all of our furniture in and reconfigured the space, you can see that, especially at elementary for sure, they're fighting over that space. Now, we like to steal the space here a lot, so as soon as you have some chances coming up to get in here. But this is from our attendance meeting that we had the other day, and it was being used to its fullest. So we really appreciate the learning spaces. We configured collaborative spaces for real world work experience. And then places that we couldn't do something like that, we still went ahead and made sure that they look nice. I don't know if y'all remember the panel in the high school. It's probably been there since the school was built. So it was a really big project to get that painted looking nice. We painted the upstairs, but we're trying to make it look nice because we want our students to know that we believe that they deserve facilities that are nice.
And so to close this out, our actual path to success. So all this is great, but you have to have the plan on paper and color coded with percent. So our path to success, we understand this right here. What gets measured improves, but what you measure publicly will improve faster. So we're going to track academically everything from math, ELA, science, ethics, bilingual, fine arts, GT, CT, PCMR. We have an actual 5-year goal, which aligns to our goals that are all the same. We have a baseline over the past 2 years, and currently where we are right now, we have more greens and yellows than we do reds. But we're going to track specifically across the board what's taking place in the district, and then even getting more fine-tuned. So for math, you might have a 2.1 and 2.2, but I'm going to break these down even farther and assign a person to report to myself or cabinet, will probably be because I'm a micromanager, on what is happening and what is taking place in the district, because we will be successful. We're not going to guess at it. Hope is not a strategy. Hope has never been a strategy. I'm not Barack Obama. Yes, we can. No, we can't. We're going to actually track what it is we're doing. And so whenever we think about the actual support, we're going to ask the commissioner that he approves our partnership and of course the benefits. We think that 2-year reprieve from the sanction will help us out. However, we will still be successful. We're going to ask to partner with a university. Why? Because they have a superb expertise of over 100 years as a teacher college when it comes to an early childhood focus. Our elementary students are our babies. I believe that our district should be eligible for a district of innovation that will provide flexibility to make a plan to fit and meet the needs of Marlin ISD. And then I'm also going to ask that you all stay on as long as you can, please. Because we have to make sure that we have some continuity to get through this year, if not so, and set that strong foundation before we transition back to a board of trustees. It's just gonna be my ask. Who knows if it'll be granted or not, along with these other asks right here. So now, Dr. Parker, will you please introduce the world premiere?
Yes.
I'm not sure if it's next.
So We wanted to, again, not just show you and highlight, because we can stand and tell you anything, but we backing it up with proof now. We're not just telling you anything. You saw, we put in a lot of work. However, we again believe in a collaborative partnership. So we have a special 180 and 180 video presentation that we would love to show you so that you can hear from some of the many voices throughout our district. And there I am.
My name is Daryl Henson, proud superintendent of the Marlin Independent School District. In the past 180 days during this COVID pandemic, we have been committed to excellence by providing school supplies for every single Marlin ISD student. We have gone one-to-one with Chromebooks for students in grades 3 through 12, and additionally, on the elementary, middle, and high school campus, we've equipped them with learning centers with the latest and greatest technology and furniture that will only implement and supplement great high-quality learning.
I'm Dr. Stacy Parker, Executive Director of Student Services. Being tasked with something as important as ensuring the safety of our students and staff, the 2020-2021 re-entry plan was a collaborative effort, taking feedback from our community, our teachers, and our district staff and leaders.
Something that really drives my passion at Marlin ISD is seeing our students use the technology that we provided for them. As they get more comfortable with it, I can see that they are enjoying it. They're working together collaboratively. They're doing real work like you would do anywhere else. And that's really what drives my passion.
For the 2021 school year, our theme is the takeoff. We believe at Marlin, our kids deserve for us to take off with jet fuel because we're trying to and we will reach higher heights.
My name is McKenna Johnson. I am a junior at Marlin High School.
My name is Zaria Cleveland. I'm a junior at Marlin High School.
My daughter has been attending Marlin ISD since she was in pre-K. So, I mean, I've watched her grow with Marlin ISD.
I participate in girls varsity basketball and I'm on the cheerleading team. After high school, I plan on becoming a civil engineer and furthering my basketball career.
I'm a cheerleader. I'm a part of the National Honor Society. I'm in CIS, and it stands for Community in School, and I enjoy serving my community.
I feel like she is happier. She is more motivated to come to school. You know, when students are rewarded, we have a great principal. She rewards them with either popcorn party or snacks, whatever it may be. Students love that.
What drives my passion in Marlin ISD is very easy. It's my kids and it's my teachers. Our kids have the biggest hearts of any students that I have ever seen. They work hard. They want to do well. My teachers stay late. They come early. They get feedback from me and my assistant principal. They implement it. They come. They want to see how to get better.
My name is Lawrence Galloway, and I'm the Chief Academic Officer here at Marlin Independent School District. As the district is preparing for the 21-22 school year, we're going to present to the Marlin ISD community Marlin ISD Masterclass. In Masterclass, we're going to highlight all the great programs at Marlin ISD, from CTE, fine arts, cosmetology, agriculture, business, technology, and audiovisual communication. This will be the first opportunity that we open the doors to the Marlin ISD community for them to see all the hard work that we have put into for the 2021 school year and what we will be offering our students for the 21-22 school year.
My name is Leslie Sanders. I am the dance teacher and the cheer coach. Some great changes I have seen in Marlin ISD this year is the excitement of the students actually wanting to come to school. The one thing that drives my passion in Marlin ISD is just helping the students see that there's another way out.
So something I've noticed about the high school this year is the growth mindset. And that goes right along with our chance for success for our kids that we're doing in the afternoons, where they might not have been as successful as they wanted to in their coursework the last 3 grading periods, but now they all have the opportunity to continue to grow and to do some things over again in the afternoons. And we've had a really good turnout with that, and the kids really enjoy it, and so the adults.
My #1 passion here at Marlin ISD is our students. We have an opportunity to impact and influence their lives and ultimately change their trajectory. We have to make sure that we give it our all every single day. It is our responsibility, our obligation, and ultimately, I am holding myself accountable for all 883 students and their families to receive the highest quality education. Marlin is a vibrant community. We understand this right here. Education in this school system is the lifeline in the blood of Marlin, Texas.
It would not be a more appropriate time to do this all on board appreciation, because none of this would be possible without any of you. As you can see, a lot of the things that we talked to you about and mentioned to you and asked, come to you and ask what's presented in the film. So without any of you, we would not have been able to do this. As a finance person, I also need to point out that we've done a lot of these things without asking for a tax increase. I want to make sure I point that out. And that we are doing this and making sure that we are strategically utilizing our federal funds, that we are trying our best to make sure we implement those programs that the federal government gives us funding for to use on our students. So every decision that you all make reflects on us, and every decision we make reflects on our campuses and reflects to our students. So there's not one decision that we don't think about the students or consider its impact. So we appreciate you all and thank you all for your great work.
Thank you.
I do want to take this time to publicly commend and show my appreciation to our campus principals, our teachers, our administrative staff, and of course, our executive cabinet. Just thank you all for what we're doing, but this is just the beginning. And this concludes the superintendent's report.
You had quite a report today.
All right, we're going into executive session. Let's see, make sure I'm not doing it. Yeah, the time is 6:06. Prudent to Texas Government Code, Section 551.074, deliberation of personal matters, including recommendation to hire head coach, head football coach, and assistant athletic director, and superintendent evaluation. consent agenda. Motion for A, B, C, D, E, G, H. On this consent agenda.
I move we approve those items.
I second it.
Been approved and second. Any further discussion on those items? If not, we're ready to vote. All in favor, raise your right hand. Motion passed 3-0. Okay, do we have a motion on I?
On I, let me think what I'm gonna say. We are going to change the superintendent's contract as discussed in closed session.
There's a second?
Second.
Been moved and second. Any further discussion on the? Not, please, let's vote. All in favor, raise your hand. Motion passed 3-0.
Do we need to do anything on F?
Just say
Do we need a motion to
No
table?
action
Table
on,
F?
Mr.
Do
President.
we have a motion to table?
I so move.
I second.
We have a motion, been second. All in favor, raise your hand. Motion passes 3-0. Anything else?
So, just for the record, as a part of I, we have to also say the verbiage evaluation and contract.
Oh, didn't use that word, excuse me. I made that motion, so I will, as discussed in a closed session, we did an approval of the superintendent's evaluation and contract.
Been moved. Second, I'll second it. We go vote again.
Sure.
All in favor, raise your hand. Motion passes 3-0. Anything else? No further discussion on anything? We stand adjourned.